So first of all, thank you all for your speeches. They were very good, and I learned a lot from all of you. So some of the questions that I asked were actually answered during the talks, so apologies for that. So I'll start with the first one from Thomas Arnold. What are the best practices for surveying your habitat boundaries, capturing realities? So that's for you.
I would say supplemental data, whether that's satellite imagery or drone imagery that you may have on site. Kind of looking at that first before you go out on site, giving you an idea of what's there, and then you can also see how things may have changed from what is already there. So a good up-to-date base map from imagery from companies like Blue Skies, things like that, are really good supplemental data to have to keep those boundaries right. Also, one of the Esri products that we're going to start using actually uses automated snapping. So if you were to draw a boundary, it snaps to a polygon that's already there, so you're eliminating potential gaps within data as well. And then also just going through validation, checking the data.
Okay. And how often do you find a sort of difference between the red-lined boundary and the reality? Common thing?
For the few projects that I did, I even found it with a big contractor on a HS2 project, is that I couldn't do full kind of geoprocessing tools because there were small bits of missing data where the technician actually hadn't digitized properly, hadn't done a good job. So that has happened, and also a big water company as well having different boundaries on sites. And I think when you've got kind of big estate owners with multiple different estates, that's where those boundaries are really going to change. And so I think it's probably more common than you think.
Okay, thank you. All right, the next question. How do we see the process of environmental survey validation and certification being enhanced by digital?
So basically, engaging the geospatial community is really the biggest thing when it comes to survey validation. Certification, that's something that I'm incredibly interested in, hence why I'm wanting to kind of develop a white paper around those, particularly GIS standards for biodiversity net gain, so we can potentially work with the local planning authorities as well, that we can give applicants a certificate saying this has gone through kind of a data accuracy program. And I think the first engagement is basically with the local planning authorities and with Natural England in that space. But I think it's something that really, really needs to be looked at, because the whole area around this is so unregulated and ungoverned. So there's a big space for it.
Okay, who asked the question? Does anyone want to say?
Yeah, I asked the question.
Are you happy with you got your answer?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, great.
We've got the survey, but my opinion is different to yours, so can we have a standard there on what this digitalisation of the survey, if you like, and the results thereof that is then certified? There's no then argument, so that's it. And essentially the project owner can commission that and it be certified without having to then get a third party in, like a regulator or something, to say that yeah, that's accurate, or perhaps having a different opinion. So you sort of take the opinion out of the equation.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. And I think because we don't have those kind of structures in place yet, it's very difficult to do that, whether it comes from project owners that can make the same kind of errors that a third party regulator could.
Okay. I just want to check if we could get some microphones in here, because normally we have microphones. I just want to check if this is going to be picked up or not.
Can I ask you a quick question, Josh?
Sure.
Yeah, we are.
So,
All right.
I have, yes.
Can I just ask you to hold that
Oh,
here on to whoever needs it as we get
yeah, sure, no problem. Absolutely. I've seen Josh's hand.
Oh,
Just
okay.
Sorry.
Present.
Yeah, I've got, every employee has it in our house as part of our dog food program.
Have you seen a big difference?
Honestly, no. Which is why we don't do domestic properties, because it's not as much waste, and it's more difficult to sort of target it as well. You're probably quite aware of the waste in your house, and you can just do something about it. And I think if I was to say to you, if I was to sort of pitch paying me a per socket price for your sockets in your house, I think you'd be quite resistant to that idea. My genuine suggestion would be, if you're interested in doing something like this, would be to go to Amazon and buy some smart sockets from Amazon and set it up yourself, because it's scalable at your sort of scale. I'm not sure what kind of house you own, assuming it's not a massive mansion. Yeah.
Why would you say that?
Well,
It's not so much the house, it's the kids.
Okay, yeah. So I do.
Assuming you've not got teenagers.
No, she's this. Yeah, so not quite. But I do have a plan, and my plan is we can obviously right now we're not detecting games consoles because it's not a typical thing you'll find. This room obviously being an exception, but yeah, you see where I'm going, right? If people with kids in the room would be detecting a games console's been plugged in and instigating a timer that times out, and it's a timeout that you take it, plug it somewhere else. Yeah. So yeah, I think there's big value there for sure. Yeah.
Okay, I've got another question for you. Is there interest in managing energy during construction activities, during execution, as well as in the completed asset? Should this be part of our capability?
Is that for me?
Yeah, I think so.
Sorry, to read that one again there. Yes, in short, yes. I think everyone should do it all the time. So we do try to then obviously on-sell onto existing. So retrofitting is obviously a big part of what we do, and construction is a big part of what we do. The obvious, next step would be to go from the construction piece directly into the project itself. The honest answer is none of those construction projects have completed since we've been installed, so I'm yet to be able to find out. But that is the obvious use case, would be to demonstrate those values forward. But the use case is obviously very different between a construction project and an ongoing CRE asset. So yeah, it's TBD, unfortunately.
I asked that question before I saw your presentation.
Yeah.
Amy was going to comment.
No, I didn't know either. No. There's definitely some synergies there for sure. Yeah.
Before I knew it was just small power,
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, okay, we need to generate energy on site.
Yes.
Are we doing that in the most efficient way possible? And then are we using it in the most efficient way
Yes.
possible? So it just seems there's a whole ecosystem there.
Yeah.
It needs to be sorted out.
Certainly. I think, as Amy said, I think fundamentally it's connecting data where it should be at the right time.
From all
Yeah.
three of us, I think,
Yeah.
actually, because you're doing lots of site surveying. We put lots of maps and overlay lots of things into our platform so that people can see where their machines are in relation to areas of ecological importance. So I think, yeah.
The next question has been answered during the presentation. Right, from Thomas Arnold, what percentage of the building sockets need to be replaced to deliver accurate results?
Ideally, 100%. Ideally, but no. In reality, we can specify it down to make sure that there is a payback on your sockets. So, if there is a socket that's, like, for example, one thing we don't really try to go near is things like cleaner sockets, as we call them. So ones that typically inside a high thoroughfare hallway, which is designed specifically so a cleaner can plug in a Hoover. They're not wasting energy by plugging in Hoovers, they're just using it and then leaving. So we wouldn't recommend you paying for that as a solution. So we typically target areas we know where the waste is. So we have seen sort of accommodation as low as 40% of all socket coverage generating value. But those intangible things I spoke about before, obviously they require a full building picture to be able to get the measure of it. So if you have just one socket that's not being monitored, in theory, it's a place where people could just plug in all their stuff, or it's a place basically you're creating unknowns in your system, and unknowns are the real challenge.
Yeah, we're kind of, obviously I work for UK Power Networks, but so we maintain the airports.
Yes. Yeah.
And the wastage is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's crazy high. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very high. So yeah, we're looking at sort of where we can reduce that. Heathrow have got a target to reduce net zero, and to net zero by a particular date. So there's a big incentive on that. So
Yeah.
we're interested.
Definitely, it was cool. Yeah.
Thank you. What do you think about the journey from data collection to analysis to decisions on the change needed? So I think that might be for Amy.
Um,
If you ask the question, just so we can.
Yeah, so you spoke about targeting the data that you need.
Mm-hmm.
Just in general, I see a lot of data fatigue.
Mm.
Myself don't know how to analyse data.
No. Oh, and
And
yeah.
then say, okay, I've got that analysis. What change should I make to make it
Yeah.
better? It's just, we've collected it, here's a dashboard.
Yeah. Now what do you do? So I think that's lots to do with the dashboards that are getting created, and we would try and argue that what we're delivering is insight, so it prompts an action. That will get easier with AI. So Unity talked about it earlier. We're testing at the moment an AI tool that is a bit like a chat GPT within the platform. So you can ask a question and then it will find you the answer, and then it will help, because you've asked a question, it will help you understand what to do next. I realise that not everybody's going to have access to that, but I think predominantly the trick is, are you delivering the data at the right time? So I talked about real time, and I think that's important. And are you delivering succinct data sets to the right person? So I think probably, I know that when we look at what is used most in our platform, it's the bespoke automated reporting, and the report that is downloaded or sent to people's inboxes most is an idling report and a machine utilization report, and they go to a specific person on site once a week, once a day, and so I think it's timing, and it's not giving too much is the solution, or the best practice.
I think for people on site, it's almost more valuable just to say, here's the action you need to take.
Yes.
Here's the report.
Yeah. Well, and
This crane is idling 5 hours a day. Here's what you should do about it.
Yeah, go and sort some training out, or you don't need as many cranes on site. Well, and I think there's also that shift in the people that we have on site and within construction. And I've been in construction for a long time, and all of a sudden, contractors, clients, they have data analysts. And so I think that shift to bringing different people in who can look at that data. I'm not a data analyst, but people who see it differently. I think the more saturation we get of those skills, the more we'll be able to use all this data, and it's just part of that kind of cultural shift.
Are you sending IoT alerts to operatives as well?
We can do. So the tricky thing for the UK is that lots of sites don't want operators to have phones. In the US, we do WhatsApp alerts, and they're quite widely used, and in some other markets. What the person we tend to target with those alerts are black hats, so that they can go out and have some impact. We are working with a company called Plinks, who some of you might have come across. So they have an in-cab alerting system. So we integrate with Plinks and vice versa, and that gives an operator an alert with LED colorings to say you're idling. It also does other alerts like unsafe areas, and people detection is their business. So that's a safer, effective way to alert them to the idling.
Just to add to that as well, I think I completely agree. Everything you're saying is fantastic, by the way. Yes, it's good to have some validation for sure. But yeah, I think a good rule of thumb when assessing a new technology, especially in the IoT space, is to try and ask whoever's selling it to you to not show you the dashboard, because it's usually a red herring. I think in that sense, it's just what is the value you're adding. I think because we have a dashboard and it's fantastic, but ideally no one would use it. But the same thing, people use it to download reports, just saying what did you do, and we just go, that's what we did. End of question. So there's no prompt. It's just tell me what it is you did, and that's it. Yeah. Sorry.
Josh, have you engaged with any of the large site accommodation companies such as Sunbelt or
Algeco or Algeco? It's Algeco, isn't it? Algeco are our biggest client. Great, yes. We've engaged with the big 3 cabin site manufacturers at the moment. So, and we are now officially spec'd in Morgan Sindall as well. So if you buy from Morgan Sindall, you'll have to ask them to remove measurable energy from it on purpose before it goes in. So the word is getting out. We've found some fantastic product market fit there. So yeah, that's as soon as we saw some traction in that market, we'll put lots of effort into it. So hopefully we're not too far from a measurable energy socket at any given point. Yeah, and we're now just been spec'd in all of HS2 as well with Alpha BT. So yeah, yes, in short.
On that, Josh, who owns the data?
So the customer owns the data, and we just have an indefinite license to it.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So it's all their data. They can access anything they want, anytime they can have from us, and yeah.
Okay, are there any more questions? Thank you, everyone.
Actually, just a quick one. In the connect, you mentioned that there's a need for data standards. What steps are being taken, I guess, for that? Are you seeing any standards that are applying to? Are there any groups forming regulations?
So AEMP 2.0 is an ISO standard for data from machinery, and that exists. I don't know how long it's been around for, but it's not very widely regulated and it's not very consistent. So the kind of granular detail of the standard is quite open to interpretation. For example, there's no idling timing specified. There's also no specification around how often the data arrives. So generally it's once a day. And of course there's a cost implication to OEMs for delivering that data. So I'm not saying that it should be done for free. But we do need to talk about that. So yeah, there is a standard. In our opinion, it's not robust enough. So I think there are a number of organisations. So it gets brought up quite a lot in the National Highways Plant Group. So people are talking about it. There's also a European organisation called MIC, or it's MIC 40. And they're doing lots of work looking at the data standard. So yeah, there's talk, but as yet we don't know what that looks like. So yeah.
So at EcoPro Networks, we're currently creating a list of preferred suppliers.
Mm-hmm.
You have to meet carbon efficiencies,
Mm-hmm.
and if you don't, in the next 5 years, you won't be able to come on the framework.
Yeah.
But we're struggling with standardisation of data.
Yes. Yeah, and I think the first tender that I saw was actually when HS2 started tendering, and there was a data specification in that tender for AEMP 2.0 for machine data. So I think there is also the opportunity for clients and projects to start dictating that early on, because then the supply chain can kind of follow suit and work to those standards. So I think that's the other way to look at it.
Well, the reason I partially asked is we do a lot of work in information and data management. A lot of what we're seeing is owners and contractors are starting to specify what data that they expect.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of it is actually driven by asset data that they will expect.
Yes.
Everything else is almost ignored, or isn't always included.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I've been talking about is there are a lot of other data sets and there are a lot of other needs for these projects that should be incorporated in these machine permission requirements. So I'm just curious.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and this is a personal opinion, I should add in, but I think the other, when we talk about fragmentation of supply chain, the number of subcontractors that you will get on a major project, and they're probably not massive businesses, so it's helping that supply chain to invest in what they need to be compliant that maybe we need to also look at, because otherwise you get those gaps in visibility or an unevenness of data. But you could argue that it's not necessarily fair to expect them to invest what they need to be able to deliver the mandated information.
Thank you all very much. It was really interesting. And I've tried to make it for all of you. I'm sure everyone else here will be doing the same. And yeah, you all go and enjoy some lunch now.
Thank you very much.